Matt Ridley that's gotten a lot of attention, and it was titled "The End of the Climate Cult." Again, we've been using that theme on this show for quite a while, especially in the last year since the 2024 election. And I'm gonna read from this, and you're gonna hear a lot of what, if you're a regular listener or viewer of this program, a lot of this is going to sound very, very familiar. But it's a very good piece. I will after the show, I'll put the links to all of this in the description, so you can read these things for yourself. It's definitely worth doing it. But this is pretty fun. Let me read from it for you. Finally, thankfully, the global warming craze is dying out. To paraphrase Monty Python, the climate parrot may still be nailed to its perch at the recent COP summit in Belém, Brazil, or at Harvard or on CNN, but elsewhere it's dead. It's gone to meet its maker, kick the bucket, shuffled off this mortal coil, run down the curtain and join the choir invisible. By failing to pledge a cut in fossil fuels, COP achieved less than nothing. The venue caught fire, the air conditioning malfunctioned, and delegates were told on arrival not to flush toilet paper. Bill Gates's recent apologia, in which he conceded that global warming, quote, will not lead to humanity's demise, after he closed the policy and advocacy office of his climate philanthropy group, is just the latest nail in the coffin. In October, the Net Zero Banking Alliance shut down after JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, and Goldman Sachs led a stampede of other banks out the door. Shell and BP have returned to being oil companies to the delight of their shareholders. Ford is about to cease production of electric pickups that nobody wants. Hundreds of other companies are dropping their climate targets. Australia has backed out of hosting next year's climate conference. According to an analysis by the Washington Post, it's not just Republicans who have given up on climate change. The Democratic Party has stopped talking about it, hardly mentioning it during Kamala Harris's campaign for president last year. The topic has been dropped to the bottom half of a table of 23 concerns among Swedish youths, Greta's home country. Even the European Parliament has voted to exempt many companies from reporting rules that require them to state how they are helping to fight climate change. It has been a long, lucrative ride. Predicting the eco-apocalypse has always been a profitable business, spawning subsidies, salaries, consulting fees, air miles, bestsellers, and research grants. Different themes took turns as the scare du jour: overpopulation, oil spills, pollution, desertification, mass extinction, acid rain, the ozone layer, nuclear winter, falling sperm counts. Each faded as the evidence became more equivocal, the public grew bored, and in some cases, the problem was resolved by a change in the law or practice. But no scare grew as big or lasted as long as global warming. The activists who took over the climate debate, often with minimal understanding of climate science, competed for attention by painting ever more catastrophic pictures of future global warming. Quote, I'm talking about the slaughter, death, and starvation of 6 billion people this century. That's what the science predicts, said Roger Hallam, founder of Extinction Rebellion in 2019, though the science says no such thing. Scientists knew that pronouncements like this were nonsense, but they turned a blind eye because the alarm kept the grant money coming. Now, the alarmist scare is fading. A scramble for the exits is beginning among the big environmental groups, and donations are drying up. And this, I just want to read the concluding paragraph by the great Matt Ridley. The climatastrophe has been a terrible mistake. It diverted attention from real environmental problems, cost a fortune, impoverished consumers, perpetuated poverty, frightened young people into infertility, wasted years of our time, undermined democracy, and corrupted science. It's time to bury the parrot. Now, as I said, thank you for your indulgence and your attention to this matter. I really enjoyed reading that, and I hope you enjoyed listening to it. Steve, well, all of us on this podcast, well, most of us, 3 of the 5 have been in the climate policy game for a very long time. Steve, there is nothing in that story that you have not heard before, but it must have been nice to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I have mixed feelings about it. I don't really think they're going away. I mean, they are having difficulty. They've been having difficulty for the last couple of years, and we've all talked about that a lot. They have a lot invested in this, right? They're still at $500 billion worth of Green New Scam money. You know, China has got a dog in this fight. We were just laughing about the Sierra Club. You know, their donations going from 173 million down to 169 million. They still have a lot of money. They have taken big hits, big losses, but they got plenty of resources. And I think it's just a matter of time before they come back. If we get a Democrat president in 2028, then all this stuff is going to come rushing back. So I'm not counting my chickens yet. I know that we've got a long fight ahead of us. Maybe it's in a bit of a swoon right now, but they'll come roaring back.
Yep. Sterling, you wanted to get in here?
Yeah, well, it's not just the story you quoted by Matt Ridley that's doing this. But the Los Angeles Times posted a story today. It was also published in Newsweek. I don't know where it appeared first. Now, you got to remember, the Los Angeles Times more than a decade ago said they would never, ever allow a climate skeptic to publish in their paper again. There was no question about climate alarm. There was no question that humans were destroying the environment. They would never take letters to the editor. They wouldn't take editorials. That was their stance. And now we see this, the welcome demise of climate change, climate catastrophism. And it goes through this litany of horribles that Ridley went through, looks at some different ones. Now, I share Steve's concern that this might not be the permanent demise, but no environmentalism, as far as I can tell, has ever been the permanent demise. He and I have both been around long enough to see lots of different things be hyped as the next big scare. Climate change is a good one for them because, well, climate's always changing. So it's a control knob for everything. Not everything, not all the other causes, but if they move off them, if climate change, if a stake is finally driven through its heart, and we won't know that for a few years. We may not know it until after the next presidential election. But they start moving. They're going to start shifting to another cause of climate change. They can't resurrect it. And the public polls shows there's very little appetite for resurrecting it. They've hardly moved the needle with 30 years of propaganda for the public's concern. The public doesn't want to pay for it. The same people that believed it before believe it now, though a few less of them. And so the question is, someone raised, well, if climate change goes away over in the comment section, what's next? Well, we're already seeing some of it. Microplastics. They're killing us. Chemicals. Some of the stuff that's coming out of the NIH scares me when it comes to chemicals. We can't have colored cereals anymore because evidently they've been killing our children for 70 years and we just didn't know it. The Fruit Loops I ate when I was a kid, I guess I'm due for cancer anytime. But the point is, they'll always have something. There'll always be some disaster for these people to grab onto and take your money. The question is whether climate change will make the comeback and be the big thing it was. And the one reason for thinking it might is because, you can get rid of the color in cereals. You can fix plastics, solve that, clean it up. You can't control the climate. And that's what they say they need to do. So they can always come back to it. So anyway, but like I said, that story that Jim read, Matt Ridley, it's not the only one that's recognizing this, right?
Oh, no.
It's skepticism, what we've been championing for decades, it's breaking out all over.
Anthony?
Yeah, and it's the nature of humanity to fear something unknown in the future. I've seen this happen time and time again. You can go back and look, to pre-modern times, and people feared all sorts of catastrophes, happening to them. Actually, some of them were real, but the point is that there always seems to be this fear of catastrophe in the future. It seems to be ingrained into us as if it's some sort of a defense mechanism that's built into our genes, our makeup. But the bottom line is that almost every kind of future catastrophe imaginable that we've seen come into the media and into the scientific literature over the past century has not occurred. I mean, you go look at what happened with, the fear of extinction and the food crisis back in the 70s. That never happened. And yet the guy who published on this, Ehrlich, he won't even admit that he was wrong, even though it never materialized, because guess what? It was peer reviewed.
I like to point out, Anthony is 100% right. They've always done this.
I've never had that happen. Thank you. Thank you.
150 years ago, people stood on the street corners with placards saying, "Repent, the end is near." And sane people crossed the streets to avoid them. It was always the same problem. Human sin. In this case, in modern times, it's the sin of using fossil fuels, of development. In the old times, it was different kinds of sin, but it was the same. Repent, the end is near. Humans are at fault, and there's a path forward. And now we invite these same placard wielding people, these same screamers, to testify in the halls of Congress rather than avoiding them, or at the UN if they want to, if they're a 16-year-old, then 16 or 15-year-old youth, because we all know youths know more about everything than anybody else. Just ask
Anthony, when Ehrlich wrote Population Bomb, do you know what his specialty, his academic specialty was?
I don't know.
It was butterflies. He's a butterfly scientist. And then he got the chance to write this book, and he, no one pointed that out at the time. He was always a fool. It was always stupid. And I mean, you're right. People will always, there's just this permanent catastrophist element to society. But what was different about climate is it developed this political agenda. The environment used to just be, like Sterling was said, people cared about the environment, but then it became politicized. And the politicization is what made it this huge force. It got at the $1 trillion, out of the Inflation Reduction Act, and got it to the UN, and all the different agendas just sort of melded together to push the politics of it.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, I know you're more skeptical than I am about, the end is near for the climate cult or the climate cult's in decline. I get that.
Well, they're not going to go. The left is not going away. Okay.
Right.
I mean, the left is there to implement the left's agenda. This has been tremendously successful. So it's had a burp for, the past year or so, but it will come back. I'm seeing it right now in the Washington Post this week. There's a big article about phthalates. Phthalates are chemicals used in plastics. And, we debunked this 25 years ago, but they just recycle this stuff because Gen Zers have never heard of any of this stuff.
Well, that's my point. Like, you don't have to reorganize all of society because of microplastics. You have to reorganize all of society because carbon dioxide emissions by humans are causing a climate catastrophe from which we'll never recover. That theory is being fully debunked. And when you see mainstream or legacy media outlets finally allowing other people to say so publicly, that has an effect. I mean, climate catastrophism has had such a firm grip on our politics and our pop culture, on our societies, and I see that grip loosening. If not, they're not going to drop it all at once. But when you see that story, I mentioned how Europe is now realizing net zero we're never going to get there. We're going to be thrown out of here with pitchforks and torches if we keep this up. It's not a winning political message anymore. It's going to be abandoned. It's starting to happen now. I think that's worth celebrating.
Yeah. Well, look, the European leadership has not given up on climate. All those guys that were part of the Net Zero Banking Alliance, they have not given up on climate. The car companies have not. Go to their websites. They have not given up on the hoax. And they're going to wait till, there's a December day in Chicago when it's 90 degrees. Or whatever the maximum is for Chicago. That will happen. And they're going to see, we were right.
Yeah.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
I think that's to some extent right, that what he just said, commie. So people when I first started doing this, they were talking about watermelons, right? Green on the outside, red on the inside. It's really about power. I always defended the communists against this claim because I had read Marx as part of my dissertation, and I knew that he wouldn't have been an environmentalist at all. For Marx, there were two things: people and resources. And if you weren't a people, you were a resource for use by people. So it's a weird kind of communism. It's one that takes the environment as more important, but really it's just the elites. It's people see this as a way of torquing power. And if they can no longer gain power on the back of climate fears, they will find another cause.
What I find frustrating, what I've always found frustrating about this particular worldwide grift is, I mean, there are environmental issues that are real and that aren't just real, but have a immediate physical solution that could be implemented. Like the Asian trash problem and stuff. If they devoted a quarter of the money that they, swallowed up for the green blob towards solving those types of problems, just like get a whole bunch of sieves. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but you can clean it up. They could have had some of these real issues solved, but then of course, once it's solved, there's no further funding, right? So the best scam in the world is the climate scam because there is no solution, actually. There is no end to it.
Well, Reagan recognized this way back when is that you create an agency to solve a problem and it never ends. The problem is never solved. It just grows and grows and grows, and often with mission creep, right? HUD was supposed to solve the housing crisis. Anyone think the housing crisis has been solved after 60 years? All the different agencies, the alphabet agencies, you pick one, not one that was formed to solve a particular problem has ever solved that problem. In fact, since the time they were formed, the problem has only grown worse.
Yeah. I just want to underscore what Linnea said. We do have real environmental problems in this country. In Southern California, they've got Mexico dumping 50 million gallons of raw sewage into Southern California every day. That would seem to be a pretty easy fix. Virtually every city in this country has.
Yeah, we just get Trump to bomb Mexico. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
There goes our chances of remonetizing.
A lot of cities in this country have serious stormwater, wastewater problems. We have groundwater. We have all sorts of real problems. None of it gets addressed because there's no money or attention. All the money and attention goes to the climate hoax.
Yeah. I mean, we'll wrap this up. We'll get to Q&A, but it wasn't that long ago that we had John Kerry worrying about the war in Ukraine, not about people dying, but about its carbon footprint and floating out ideas that we're going to have electric tanks and troop carriers and stuff like that. I mean, so that kind of madness is now falling away. And I think a lot of other madness is going to start falling away as well.